By this time, our 82-footers were being loaded on merchant ships and soon were on their way across the Pacific. We would meet again for shakedown and staging at the U.S. Naval Base at Subic Bay in the Philippines.
These first arrivals were visited and reviewed personally by the Commandant of the U.S. Coast Guard and the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. Just in case you've forgotten, the Coast Guard served under the Treasury Department for 176 years. But in wartime, or when directed by the President, it becomes a service of the Navy. At Subic Bay, Squadron 1, the Coast Guard's first wartime squadron since World War II, was divided into two divisions, 11 and 12, each one ready for action in Vietnam.
It was a rough South China Sea we had to cross, but the trip to Vietnam did give us a chance to get our sea legs back again. Besides, many of our search and rescue missions back in the States took place in seas just like these, so we felt right at home. With the nearby division mothership seeing that our fuel tanks were filled, we just kept plowing along, eager to get started on our new job.
On paper, it looked simple. Division 11 would operate from the village of Anthoi on the island of Phu Quoc, patrolling the coastline of the Gulf of Thailand to the Cambodian border. Division 12 would operate from Da Nang in the northernmost coastal section of the Republic of Vietnam to seal off the border with the Communist North at the 17th parallel. The area in between would be covered by Division 13, due to arrive later. Yes, it all looked so simple on paper. But the job itself, well, that's another story. It was July 1965. We moved out on our first patrols, from Anthoi in the south and from Da Nang in the north. It was amazing to think that only 81 days before, we had been on peacetime duty back in the States. By now, we had painted a less conspicuous gray color over the peacetime white of our 82-footers. We were at war, part of the U.S. Navy's Coastal Surveillance Force. Our mission was clear: halt the movement of men and material to the enemy.
At first, to accomplish our mission, we had to stop every vessel we came across. Stop them, check their papers, board and search them. This was the only way to tell if a vessel might be helping the Viet Cong. Friend and enemy, they all flew the flag of South Vietnam. Soon we found it was impossible to board and search every one of the thousands of boats that roam the coastal waters every day, but we got most of them as they came and went on their daily journeys between villages and to the fishing grounds.
Every South Vietnamese carries an identification card, and every vessel carries a manifest. It was my job as liaison officer with the Navy of the Republic of Vietnam to ride U.S. Coast Guard's patrol boats, to know what to look for on the vessels we stopped, then to make sure only what was authorized on board was actually there.
It was tedious work, beginning before dawn and often lasting until midnight, when the boats would be back in port. That gave us time for as many as 60 boardings a day by a single cutter. While the great majority of the people we stopped were loyal citizens of the Republic of Vietnam, we never knew when we'd meet someone who wasn't. That old man, for example, his son might be a guerrilla leader, and the grain in his little cargo junk could be concealing Viet Cong guns and ammunition. That young boy, under his clothing could be hidden a belt of live grenades. That fisherman, he could be a Viet Cong fighting man, carrying important information back to his unit. We never knew, so every boarding was handled as if this were it.
We found a lot of things we weren't looking for, but we gave them our attention anyway. Like this little kid with the burned stern. I'm no doctor, but when you have kids of your own back home, you just can't let something like this go by without trying to help. Everyone says Americans are suckers when it comes to kids, and I guess we are. But all of us wanted to do what we could to ease some of the pain these youngsters were suffering out here. Fact is, we passed out candy to the kids or cigarettes for the grown-ups whenever we could get them. Before long, they actually seemed to want us to stop them and come aboard. Seeing how much these people appreciated even the smallest help got us started on a program where the crew of each cutter would sort of adopt and look after a village. On a day when we weren't on patrol, we'd drop in on the villagers, bring them packages we'd put together ourselves, or our wives or some civic group would have sent from the States. Nothing big, just things like soap, needles and thread, writing paper, towels, little things people in these remote villages couldn't easily get for themselves. It was all unofficial, just a personal thing we wanted to do. These villagers are really wonderful people. They live today just the way their ancestors did many years ago. That means they often don't get the right kind of medical attention. So with the help of Navy medical corpsmen from our mothership, we do what we could to help them out. We enjoyed our visits to the villages and seeing how much we came to mean to the people there. Of course, they came to mean just as much to us.